What's up, guys? I'm Zach Joaquin with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. This is my colleague Savannah Rieger, and we're talking to you guys today about our high school football coaching finances project. So we sent a bunch of FOIAs, Freedom of Information Act requests, to get the stipends and the salaries for all the local high school football coaches in the 804's. Savannah, tell us a little bit about what that process looked like.
Yeah, so with the Freedom of Information Act, it's where, as a citizen in the state, you can request public documents. And so what we did was we went to all the different school counties and cities. So, for example, Henrico and Chesterfield, but also like Prince George County and Dinwiddie County. And we went and used these FOIA acts to get all the head football coaching, high school coaching stipend/salaries. Stipend and salaries are different. High school football coaches aren't paid the salary, but they're just paid an additional stipend. Some coaches actually do teach most of them actually do teach their full time, but some of them don't, and so that's where we got the stipend. And
their day job essentially is their teaching responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
So they get a salary that's based on that, but then they get a stipend for coaching the football program in addition to what they earn as a base salary. And one of the big takeaways, I think, that we see just in looking at the raw numbers and that coaches told us is that they do not get paid in accordance with the hours that they put into these programs. Mm-hmm. This is a year-long obligation. It's a labor of love. None of them are doing this for the money, but big takeaways from the numbers that we got, right? Counties, Dinwiddie, Billy Mills is the head coach there. He gets $14,000 in his stipend. He makes more than $100,000. Prince George, Goochland, those are some of the other really high numbers that we saw in the area compared to Richmond City, Henrico, where you might see $3,000 to $5,000 for the stipends, right? And so not only do those coaches have significantly more financial resources for their programs, they also enjoy a more intimate relationship with the community, right? And Tom Hall, former Manchester coach who was there for 25 years, is now at Prince George, talked about that. He's really enjoyed the close relationship that he has with his community there and the program. And he said that Dinwiddie is kind of the atmosphere and relationship between a high school football program and community that everyone should strive for. And you talked to Eric Harris, right? Anything stand out to you in that conversation, the coach at Thomas Jefferson?
I mean, when you coach at the city school, you are naturally dealing with, lower funds, and you'll see that in the database, what the four city school coaches are paid. But Eric Harris does a lot of fundraising stuff, and he puts a lot of money back into the program. He sells old jerseys to afford stuff. He starts stockpiling water, for example, now versus back in August. He goes, well, we're going to need it in August and we need to get that stuff ready now. So I think that really shows you how much of a year-long job this is. It's not just almost all of them said the best part and easiest part is being on the sidelines.
I think Tom Hall said he uses the stipend for Christmas money every year because you get it at the end of the calendar year. And coaches said, too, after taxes, that stipend is roughly cut in half a lot of the time. And Marcus Lewis, I spoke to, the Verina head coach, and they were in a state final this past year, said all that money pretty much goes back into his program. Yeah. So they're not taking any of that home. They're doing fundraising initiatives throughout the year, like getting their players to camps. Verina specifically is doing something with King's Dominion, trying to help them sell season passes, and they get a cut of that revenue. And so coaches have to get super creative with their fundraising. Thing.
Absolutely. It's like, it's not just what you see on the sidelines. It's the entire year. And I think that and that's why you have coaches sometimes who step down and they're like, yeah, I want to spend more time with my family, because it's not just, from August to December, it's the whole 12 months.
You spoke with Jim Henderson at Monacan, who recently stepped down there. And then I spoke with Mike Henderson at Powhatan. We've both spoken with him in recent weeks. Both coaches who have a ton of respect for their careers and coaching in the Richmond area, who stepped away because they wanted more family time, because it's tough to carve that out as a coach, right?
And you'll see with their stipends that are listed in the database, you can see just how much time and energy they put into it and then what they're kind of getting back. And so, I think it's very interesting to look at to see just the disparities between it and the differences that some coaches make versus others.
And I talked to Matt Hutchings, who was the longtime Midlothian coach who stepped away for a couple of years, now back at Clover Hill, spent some really valuable time with his family in those couple of years, but he said that he kind of got the itch really quickly to return to coaching, and he's now at his alma mater, but he was working the gate at Midlothian games this past year because he couldn't stay away, and he missed it that much. So always a real time management balance for coaches, and spending time with their families outside of an incredibly time-consuming profession, and handling those finances for their programs are a year-long challenge. They're always trying to fundraise and always trying to come up with creative new ways to finance their high school football programs. What were the numbers that Marcus Lewis said for a variety. I think it's like $400+ for a helmet. And he's got a big spreadsheet that he keeps of all the money that his players are fundraising for. So incredibly time consuming, a huge tip of the cap, an enormous amount of respect to everything that these coaches do for their programs, for their communities, for their players. We wanted to shed some light on the financial challenges that they face.
Absolutely.
So this is Savannah Rieger with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. I'm Zach Joaquin. Check out our high school football coaching salaries project at richmond.com. Thank you, guys.